A live television interview is a high-wire act. There are no do-overs, no edits, and no safety nets. And when you put a globally famous prince, known for his simmering resentment towards the media, opposite one of America's toughest television journalists, you're not just walking a high wire, you're doing it in a hurricane. What was supposed to be a standard promotional interview for Prince Harry on the iconic Today Show set turned into one of the most shocking and talked about moments in recent television history. It was a train wreck in slow motion, culminating in an unprecedented act. Prince Harry, visibly enraged, storming off the set, leaving a stunned Savannah Guthrie and a national audience completely speechless. This wasn't just an awkward moment. Sources from inside NBC claim it was a full-blown meltdown that has sent shockwaves through the industry. So what happened? What question did Savannah Guthrie ask that was so out of bounds it caused a prince to publicly unravel? We're going to break down the entire disastrous interview, moment by moment, from the fake smiles at the beginning to the heated clash that no one saw coming, and the chaotic aftermath that has everyone asking, did Harry just destroy his career in America? Let's set the scene. The stakes for this interview were enormous. Prince Harry was in the middle of a media blitz for his deeply personal memoir, Spare. He had already sat down with Anderson Cooper and Tom Bradby in the UK. But an appearance on the Today Show was different. This was mainstream America. This was the show that millions of people watch while they have their morning coffee. It was his chance to speak directly to the American heartland. NBC, for its part, had pulled out all the stops. This was a huge get. They reportedly paid a hefty sum for the exclusive sit-down, and the entire network was buzzing. The plan was for a two-part interview, half with Savannah Guthrie, known for her sharp, legally trained mind, and a softer, more lifestyle-focused segment with Hoda Kotb afterwards. It was meant to show both the serious and the relatable sides of the prince. But behind the scenes, sources say the tension was palpable from the moment Harry and his team arrived at Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza. He was reportedly in a prickly mood. His security detail was unusually large and restrictive, creating a tense atmosphere for the show's producers and crew who are used to dealing with high-profile guests. One crew member allegedly overheard a tense exchange between Harry's press secretary and an NBC producer. The producer was confirming the line of questioning, and Harry's team was trying to declare certain topics off-limits, specifically any detailed questions about his children or any relitigation of the Oprah interview. This was a major red flag. For a journalist like Savannah Guthrie, being told what you can and can't ask is like waving a red cape in front of a bull. Savannah Guthrie isn't just a morning show host. She's a licensed attorney who graduated magna cum laude from Georgetown University Law Center. Her interview style is famously prosecutorial. She is meticulous, she does her homework, and she is known for not letting guests dodge difficult questions. She famously grilled presidential candidates and world leaders with the same unflinching poise. The network knew this. They chose her for a reason. They wanted headlines. They wanted a substantive, news-making interview, not a fluffy piece of PR. And Prince Harry, despite his team's efforts, was walking straight into the lion's den. He may have thought he could control the narrative, but he fundamentally misunderstood who he was about to sit across from. The air in the studio was electric as the show returned from a commercial break. The familiar Today Show music faded, and the camera focused on Savannah and Harry sitting in two armchairs, a polite distance between them. But if you look closely, the body language told a different story. Savannah was leaning slightly forward, engaged and focused. Harry, on the other hand, was leaning back, his arms crossed defensively over his chest. It was a subtle, almost subconscious signal of the wall he had already put up. The stage was set for a confrontation, whether he knew it or not. The interview started predictably enough. Savannah welcomed him warmly, smiling. "Prince Harry, welcome. It's so good to have you here. Your book, Spare, is a global phenomenon. It is raw, it is honest, and in it, you say you are finally telling your own story in your own words. Why was now the time?" Harry seemed to relax slightly. This was familiar territory. He uncrossed his arms and launched into his well-rehearsed answer about reclaiming his narrative, about the years of spin and distortion from the palace and the British tabloids. He talked about his mother, Princess Diana, and his desire to protect his own family, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet. For the first 10 minutes, everything went according to plan. Savannah nodded along, asking thoughtful follow-up questions about his time in the military, his work with the Invictus Games, and the happy new life he was building in California. He was charming. He was passionate. He was the Harry the world had come to know. Viewers at home probably thought this was just another friendly celebrity chat. But then Savannah's tone shifted. It was almost imperceptible at first. A slight narrowing of her eyes, a firmer set to her jaw. She had lulled him into a state of comfort. Now the real interview was about to begin. "Harry," she said, her voice dropping a little, "I want to talk about a central theme in the book, which is your relationship with your brother William. You describe a moment where he physically attacked you, knocking you to the floor over an argument about Meghan. It's a shocking revelation. Have you spoken to your brother since the book was published? And do you worry that by sharing that story, you may have made any chance of a reconciliation impossible?" The change in Harry was immediate. The easy smile vanished. His jaw tightened. He looked away from Savannah for a moment, down at the floor, as if collecting himself. "My brother and I have been through a lot," he said, his voice clipped. "This book is not about trying to hurt my family. It's about telling the truth of my experience." Savannah wasn't letting him off that easy. "I understand that," she pressed, "but a truth for one person can be a deep source of pain for another. He's your brother, the future king. Did you consider his pain before you decided to publish that detail for the entire world to read?" This was the first real jab, and it landed. Harry's eyes flashed with anger. "For years, my pain was not considered," he shot back. "For years, stories were planted and leaked from inside the palace that hurt me and my wife. So, yes, I considered it. And I decided that the truth was more important." The temperature in the room had dropped by 20 degrees. The friendly chat was officially over. Savannah, ever the professional, just nodded slowly, absorbing his answer. She had a copy of Spare on the table next to her. She picked it up, opening it to a bookmarked page. This was a classic Savannah Guthrie move, using a guest's own words against them. "You also write extensively about your stepmother, Camilla, the Queen Consort," Savannah continued, her eyes fixed on Harry. "You call her dangerous and a villain. You accuse her of trading stories with the press to rehabilitate her own image. Those are incredibly serious accusations to make against the wife of the sitting monarch. What did you hope to achieve by putting that out there?" Harry scoffed, a short, sharp, bitter sound. "Again, it's the truth. I saw the press machine at work. I saw how it operated, how family members would get in bed with the devil to make themselves look better. It happened to my mother, and I watched it happen again." "But Harry," Savannah interjected, cutting him off mid-sentence, "you and your wife have also engaged with the media on your own terms. You did the interview with Oprah. You have your Netflix series. You're here with me today. Is it possible that you're not against the media? You're just against media you can't control?" That was it. That was the moment the interview went from tense to hostile. Harry looked genuinely stunned, as if he couldn't believe what she had just suggested. He sat bolt upright in his chair, his eyes locking onto hers with a furious glare. "That's a ridiculous assertion," he snapped, "to compare telling my own story in a controlled environment to the decades of relentless harassment, the racism my wife endured, the lies that were printed. It's not the same thing, and to even suggest that is frankly insulting." The producers in the control room were likely holding their breath. This was compelling television, but it was also on the verge of derailing completely. Savannah, however, was calm. She had him rattled, and she wasn't done. She went for the jugular. "Let's talk about that," she said, her voice remaining steady and even. "You've been very vocal about the racism you believe Meghan faced from the British press, but you've been less vocal about the multiple allegations of bullying made against her by former palace staff who felt their voices were silenced. In your quest for your truth, have you ignored the truth of others?" It was a direct hit, the one topic his team had reportedly tried to make off limits. Harry stared at her, his face a mask of pure fury. For a few seconds, there was dead silence. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. He shook his head slightly in disbelief. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," he finally said, his voice low and trembling with rage. "You bring up debunked, malicious rumors designed to smear my wife. You're doing the work of the tabloids for them. I thought this was a serious interview." "It is a serious interview," Savannah replied calmly. "And that is a serious allegation, made by multiple sources. As a journalist, I have to ask the difficult questions." "No," Harry said, his voice rising. "You don't. You have a choice. And you've chosen to perpetuate a narrative that is false and deeply damaging. I came here to talk about my book and my life, not to have my wife attacked on national television." His face was flushed. He was visibly shaking now. He started fumbling with the microphone clipped to his jacket. "This is done. This is over," he said, more to himself than to her. Savannah's eyes widened. She realized what was happening. "Harry," she started to say, trying to de-escalate. "That wasn't my intention." But it was too late. He had unclipped the mic. "I'm not doing this," he said, his voice now loud enough for the whole studio to hear. He stood up abruptly, tossing the microphone and its battery pack onto the chair he had just been sitting in. It landed with a loud thud that was picked up by Savannah's microphone. The camera, which had been in a tight two-shot, quickly pulled back to a wide view. The entire studio was in a state of shock. Producers and stagehands who had been standing in the wings were frozen. Harry, without another word, turned his back on a stunned Savannah Guthrie and strode off the set. He didn't just walk. He stormed. For a moment that felt like an eternity, there was chaos. You could hear frantic voices off camera. "Cut to commercial! Cut to commercial now!" Savannah Guthrie just sat there, looking at the empty chair, her face a mixture of shock and utter disbelief. The screen abruptly cut to black, then a commercial for laundry detergent filled the screen. Millions of viewers across America were left staring at their televisions, wondering what on earth they had just witnessed. The moment the cameras stopped rolling, the controlled environment of the Today Show set descended into pandemonium. Savannah Guthrie reportedly just sat in her chair for a full minute, completely silent, before taking a deep breath and saying, "Okay, what just happened?" Producers immediately rushed to her side. Hoda Kotb, who had been waiting in the wings to conduct the next segment, came over looking just as shocked as everyone else. According to an NBC insider who later leaked details to the press, the atmosphere was one of total chaos and disbelief. No one could believe he had actually walked out. Meanwhile, Harry was being hustled out of the studio by a security team. He was described as being visibly enraged, refusing to speak to any of the high-level NBC executives who were scrambling to intercept him before he left the building. He and his team were out of 30 Rockefeller Plaza and into a black SUV within minutes, leaving a firestorm behind them. The immediate problem for the show was what to do next. They had another hour of live television to fill, and their star guest had just abandoned ship in the most dramatic way possible. After the unplanned commercial break, a composed but visibly shaken Savannah and Hoda appeared on screen. Savannah addressed the camera directly. "Well," she began, "as you may have just seen, we were in the middle of a wide-ranging interview with Prince Harry. We were discussing some of the difficult topics in his book when he decided to end the interview. We were not expecting that to happen, and we wish him the best. It was a masterclass in professionalism under pressure, but the damage was done. The story was no longer about Harry's book. It was about his meltdown. Within minutes, Prince Harry and Savannah Guthrie were the #1 trending topics on Twitter worldwide. The clip of him storming off went instantly viral. Social media exploded. The battle lines were drawn immediately. Harry's supporters, the Sussex Squad, were furious. They accused Savannah Guthrie of conducting an ambush, of being unprofessional, and of deliberately trying to provoke him with tabloid smears about Meghan. They flooded NBC's social media pages with accusations of bias and racism. But a huge number of people came to Savannah's defense. Veteran journalists, media critics, and a large portion of the public praised her for asking tough but fair questions. They argued that if you write a tell-all book attacking your family and then go on a media tour, you should expect to be challenged. They saw Harry's actions not as a principled stand, but as a tantrum from someone who couldn't handle being questioned. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even more intense. NBC News executives were reportedly furious. They had invested significant resources in this interview, and now they were left with a PR disaster. Their relationship with Harry and Meghan, which they had hoped to cultivate, was now completely torched. There would be no more friendly sit-downs. Harry's team immediately went into damage control mode. They released a terse statement saying, "The prince was disappointed that the interview took an unprofessional and unnecessarily aggressive turn. He was there to discuss his memoir and his charity work, not to engage with baseless gossip." But the statement did little to quell the fire. If anything, it added fuel to it. Many saw it as an attempt to blame the journalist for his own reaction. The narrative was solidifying. Prince Harry, the man who wanted to control his own story, lost control in the most public way imaginable. He had played the media game and lost. The incident on the Today Show set was more than just a dramatic television moment. It represented a critical turning point in Prince Harry's public life in America. He had spent years building a narrative of a man who had escaped the toxic British media, only to crumble under pressure from a mainstream American journalist asking legitimate questions. For many, this shattered the image he had carefully crafted. The walkout wasn't seen as a defense of his wife, but as an inability to face accountability. The very thing he demanded from his own family, he seemed unwilling to offer himself. It raised a fundamental question. Does Prince Harry believe his truth is the only one that matters? The long-term consequences are still unfolding. He burned a massive bridge with NBC, one of America's largest and most influential media networks. It's unlikely any other major network will risk a similar sit-down without strict guarantees, which would undermine his credibility even further. He essentially alienated the very platforms he needs to get his message out. This single, heated exchange with Savannah Guthrie may have done more damage to his reputation in the United States than any tabloid story ever could. Because this time, the public saw it with their own eyes. There was no spin or distortion. It was just raw, unfiltered, and deeply revealing. He showed the world that while you can leave the palace, you can't always escape the pressure that comes with the crown. So now, I have to ask you, whose side are you on? Do you think Savannah Guthrie went too far? Was her question about the bullying allegations an unfair low blow designed to provoke him? Or was she simply doing her job as a journalist, holding a public figure accountable for the things he wrote in his own book? Or do you believe Prince Harry was completely justified in walking out? Was he right to draw a line in the sand and refuse to participate in an interview he felt had become an attack on his wife? Did he take a principled stand against a media that he believes is inherently hostile? This is one of those moments that has everyone divided. Let me know exactly what you think down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to see more deep dives into the most dramatic moments in Hollywood and beyond, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.